Well, good to see you all.
Good to see you.
Here in Morgantown.
What was it like? We've asked the question of a couple of the student athletes as you gained lower altitude and the phone started to go off. Walk us through that.
Well, I hate to even tell this story, but I was sitting with Matt Wells in the front row of the plane, and Matt had told he had talked to the pilot, told him the story of what was getting ready to happen, and asked if he could, since there was no Wi-Fi on the plane, asked if the pilot could call ahead to somebody on the ground when the show made the announcement and have one of the flight attendants come back and tell us. And he said, sure, I'd be happy to do that. So I was sitting with Matt, and the flight attendant came back. He asked her one time to check and see if he had found out yet, and she hadn't, and she came back. The second time he said, do you mind go checking again? She said, no, I'd be happy to. So we were watching her on the phone with the pilot, and she come back and said, I'm sorry, it's a no. And my heart dropped, Matt's heart dropped, and we kind of looked at each other, and the story we went with between the two of us was, maybe they don't know yet. Maybe she's trying to tell us they haven't found out yet. But the show was over at that point, so we knew that wasn't true, but that's the story we were going with. So we decided to keep that amongst ourselves. And as we were descending, once we got below however many feet you got to get below and people's phones started going off, we heard the kids in the back going crazy and celebrating, and a big roar came out of the plane, and then we were officially in. And when we got to the bus, once we landed, the pilot that Matt had talked to came on the bus and said, I'm so sorry. It was simply a miscommunication. The people that I was talking to on the ground must not have understood what I was getting at, or they must have saw the first team get announced and came back and said, no, you guys didn't get one. So that was 4 months of hard work and excitement and energy. If there was a parachute available at that point, I was putting it on.
Well, maybe not.
Yeah, that's right.
Typical of the baseball season, though, so many ups and downs.
Humor's coming into the broadcast. I like that. But yeah, it's what an exciting moment. You get on the plane after losing the championship game, and under normal conditions, kids would be so disappointed on that flight home, but it was actually the opposite. Kids were so excited and anxious, and to be in the air when the show goes off was kind of disappointing, but it all ended up working out great.
Were you concerned, having known that maybe they'd get the communication screwed up with the tower to land or anything? Or?
Yeah, I don't know anything about technology. Or when they told me there was no Wi-Fi on the plane, I don't even know what that means. So I was just waiting for somebody else to tell me we were in. That's all I was waiting for.
How about the teams you got coming here? You got A&M coming here. You got Duke, Fordham, different styles. Just talk about what you got coming here.
I'm super excited for our community. We've been talking about Big 12 baseball coming to Morgantown for so many years. Well, here comes ACC and SEC baseball. I think that's really cool for the community and the fans to get to see what other high quality, high caliber competition is all about. I'm super excited about our regional.
This is, along those lines, does this maybe help your scheduling down the road, getting in this game? It's hard to get these games in this part of the country, and you got one. Does that help you?
I hope so. I think this will help on so many levels. I think there's a lot of fans that are going to come and watch us play that maybe have never seen us play or been in our stadium. And there's so many people this year that have come up to me and told me that very thing, that, hey man, this is my first time to the ballpark. I've never seen you guys play before. I'm a fan now, and I think that's what hosting a regional does. It just propels the entire program to the next level and creates excitement that didn't exist for a lot of people.
I think of what happened at Virginia. Similar type thing, got a new ballpark, got a regional there, kind of got it on a roll. Maybe a high state had one. I think that's it in this part of the country, right, that's had a regional?
Yeah. You look back at all of the teams, like you mentioned, teams that at one point the administration makes a commitment to the baseball program. That's the first part. And when Virginia did it, all of a sudden, 6 or 7 years later, they're going to the College World Series. When Oregon State did it, they started going to the College World Series. And then Louisville, and then Vanderbilt. Those teams 20 years ago weren't those teams 20 years ago. It took vision by the administration, followed up with facility and resources, and just allowing people to do what they know how to do, just jumpstart the program. And as impatient a person as I am, chronologically speaking, the timing is about right.
6 years?
Yeah, it's, who knew 6 or 7 years ago when I had my first press conference, I think one of the things somebody told me I said was, I hope not to be doing press conferences in June moving forward. I hope to be having practices, and that's what we're going to be doing. So, I hope this day would come and hoped it would come sooner, but like I said, realistically speaking, with the timeline and what we've accomplished, and just to have us go to the Big 12 tournament and be as good as, if not better than those other teams that have great traditions in that league. I'm talking about Texas, Oklahoma State, teams that have piled up so many trips to the College World Series, and we're on the same playing field and beating them. And I just can't be prouder of how far this program has come in the last 6 or 7 years.
How tough was it to be playing home games in Charleston and not having your own locker room and the likes?
It's extremely tough. If you're in a profession where you have to travel a lot, you guys know how tired you get. Go to Vegas one time. You're there 3 days and you're like, man, I love Vegas, but I'm ready to get home, anywhere. And our kids are on the road all the time, and they're not laying on the beach like we do on vacation. They're actually out there grinding it out, 100% effort. It's just the fatigue that sets in with what we go through early in the year and the way our kids overcome it. People you can't understand how hard that is.
You mentioned the 6 years. That's not even 2 full recruiting classes. So you've hit a lot right in 6 years to get the kids you've got here to get to where you're at. Yeah,
you look at Darius Hill and Zeitel and Pudge, and the older guys in the program were recruited to Holly Field. I remember the very first bullpen Pudge ever caught was down the right field line at Holly Field. And those guys took a leap of faith, man. When we started recruiting those kids, we were selling them on an idea at that point, because the stadium wasn't finished. We're selling them on an idea. Hey, man, you could go to these other schools, and you could go to Texas and be one of 30-some teams that have played in the College World Series, or you could come to West Virginia and do things that have never been done before. And those kids bought in, man. They bought into the commitment that we had as coaches, what the administration had, the vision of the stadium and the conference, and they took a leap of faith. And I think, I don't want to speak for them, but I think it's worked out pretty well for those kids.
Well, you've developed them, but you've got some big-name kids, too. Manoa was a kid everybody was after, and there's some other guys, too, so you've sprinkled some of that in there.
Yeah, it's Miami to Morgantown's a pretty easy transition.
Yeah, he said, yeah. Who doesn't want snow in April?
Begin with them.
That's what he said, yeah.
But, it's just, that's what you have to sell kids on is the vision of what you're trying to accomplish. And it's so exciting, as you can see, talking to the kids now, to do something that's never been accomplished before. I mean, how many opportunities do you ever have in life to ever even do that? Let alone to do it on a baseball field when you're having a great time, So, they bought in, and, all the credit goes to, my assistant coaches and the guys that are out there grinding every day and working hard. And I'm just the guy you guys always want to talk to, but they're the ones out there doing all the work.
But those phone calls are a lot easier for you to make now to those kids. When you're going on that list, you're going a little higher than you were maybe when you started here, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's thousands of kids, high school kids out there right now that just watch that selection show and heard them talking about the Mountaineers hosting a regional, one of the top 16 teams in the country. So, yeah, I think the regional 2 years ago really helped. But now this was 2 regionals in the last 3 years, and 2 Big 12 championship games in the last 4 years. And, you look at what's been done the last 200 games in college baseball, you can't help but think the Mountaineers are one of the top 25 programs out there.
And the last thing here, you're sitting in a part of the country where there's a lot of good players that have either ACC or SEC, and then you introduce Big 12 to that part of the country. Do you use that a lot to your advantage?
Yeah, I grew up in the state of Pennsylvania, and if you asked me when I was a high school senior who was in the Big 12, I couldn't even have told you,
Go to the Big 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're showing your age there.
Hell, I went with the Big 6.
Or the Southwest, right?
Yeah.
But, yeah, the ACC has had such a stronghold on those Pennsylvania and Maryland and Northern Virginia kids for so long. And, all of a sudden here come the Mountaineers, in the Big 12 and attracting kids from that area and having great recruiting classes. I think we've, in the last couple of years, we've signed the top 2 or 3 arms out of the state of Pennsylvania. And obviously have kids like Manoa out there pitching from Miami, throwing to Pudge, catcher from Round Rock, Texas. And if they happen to hit the ball to center field, old Brandon White from Florida's running around there getting it. And if he can't catch it, Darius Hill from the Metroplex in Texas runs over there and catches it. But that's great. All these kids have something in common, for the most part. They all come a long way from home to go to school. So that helps with the team chemistry that we've built here, that they all have that in common.
So that island helps you a little bit in that you're separated from those other ACC schools that are fighting for each other. Hey, come to the Big 12,
Yeah, it's the facility sure helped. This is attracting kids in itself. They could walk through here on a recruiting visit, and we don't even need to be here. And they're impressed with West Virginia baseball. The fact that we are here and we tell them what our culture is in this program and how we do things. If you had to put a title on a kid's recruiting visit when they come to West Virginia, it would be titled "Who Knew?" Because they don't. They don't know what West Virginia baseball is all about until they sit down with the people and talk to everybody and meet the strength coach and the nutritionist. And we talk about how we do things and the culture and the chemistry and the work ethic and how well we've done in the classroom and in the community. Can anybody remember any time you've read negative press about a West Virginia baseball player? It just doesn't happen. Our kids just constantly do the right thing all the time. And I think that feeds on itself, and just people just love the way we do things here.
A lot less explaining and a lot more informing.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you have to because of that sole fact that people don't know. We had a kid here last week and that came, watched us play, and him and his dad came and sat in the front row, and I went over and said hello, and they were like, "Oh, this is unbelievable, this atmosphere." I think they came for the Pitt game at home, and we had a good atmosphere, and they said, "We had no idea," and that's what most people are like. So my guys go out every summer rounding up great players, and we get them here and just show them how we do things, and we've had a lot of success getting really, really good players.
Coach, about a week ago, maybe a couple weeks ago, you talked about maybe moving the college baseball season to the summer. Do you think the regional here is could be an example of how that could work up in the north? Because a lot of people are going to come here.
Were you the one that asked me that question in
I
the
don't
press
think so.
conference that day?
I don't think so.
Whoever it was, I got some 300-some thousand re-votes or tweets or whatever, likes, or I don't know what they're called.
You're popular, man.
That's what they tell me. But one of these days I'll learn how to do Twitter, I guess. But yeah, it's you look at the sites out there, and they got one up in Corvallis, which geographically I guess is a little more northern than Morgantown is. But yeah, I mean you look around and 3 teams from Nebraska got in. 3 teams from Connecticut got in, and that's encouraging to me that northern schools are serious about baseball. And yeah, I'm I'll take that to my grave that we should be playing this in the summertime. And yeah, look at the crowds that we're going to get this weekend. And, one of the things that everybody says why you can't do it is because, well, the kids are out of school and you won't be able to draw crowds. But kids are out of school now, and I think we're going to have pretty good crowds this weekend.
Randy, would you describe your style of running a program and managing, like some of your kids say you're always there for them when they need them, and you have a way of, they can pick up the phone and call you if there's something wrong. But also, I mean, you've got your son involved, I mean, your wife, your daughter, your family. I mean, it's a lot different than most programs.
Well, we tell these kids in this theater especially that we're standing in, when you walk through the door of that theater, you've just become a member of our family. And we tell them that when we recruit them. And, with members of your family, you go through adversity sometimes and you stick with them and you love them unconditionally and you help them when they need help and you kick them in the butt when they need kicked in the butt. But I have a relationship with these kids for 3 or 4 years while they're here, but I need them to know, and I want them to know that my relationship with them is going to go on, which I do. I have relationships with kids that I've coached 20 and 30 years ago that are going to come and see the Mountaineers playing this regional. I really believe that this world is about relationships, and it's not about Alec Manoa showing me how many games he can win. It's about him growing as a kid and maturing and how far he's come in the past 3 years and how far he's getting ready to go. And I can't wait to meet his family one day when he has kids. And that's just the way I've always done things. I believe way more in relationships than I do your ability to field a backhand or hit a curveball. You'll need those skills for the next 3 years if you're lucky. But being a good teammate and a good person and knowing how to do things the right way, being a good husband and a good father, those are the skills you need the rest of your life. So we spend more time teaching those skills than we do the baseball skills.
Curious, you had a team in '04 that won 50 games and made a super regional. Are there any similarities you see between this team and that team you had?
Say 04?
2004, yeah.
And what year is this?
19.
That's 15
yeah.
years ago?
Yeah.
It's hard for me to remember what I did yesterday, like 15 years ago. But that was a good team. We won 50 games that year and played in the super regional at South Carolina. But this team's different, I think. This team is, you've got Manoa and Snyder out there that I think have won 16 games between the two of them. Those guys if you're going to have great years like that, you've got to have guys like that. And that team hit 100 home runs that year. Our team's not built that way. It's more of a speed team and opportunistic team. We got to take advantage of all the opportunities we get. Just the last 2 games we played, we scored 2 runs in both games. One of them we won 2-0, and the other one we lost. So we don't pile up 10 runs a game, but